Big Fantasy Football has a problem, and it's with me. We're going to look at what they have to say about the Week 14 waiver wire. We're going to toss some criticism around. We're going to be looking at the trending fantasy football sites and what they're putting out there for you to consume. And this is going to be valuable for you because you're going to know what your league mates are looking at. You're going to know what the market is looking at. You're going to be looking at these sites and you're wondering whether or not you should be making that subscription for next year, because we're going to do this every single week. We did this every single week this year. We're definitely going to do this next year because this has been eye-opening. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're going deeper, covering the waiver wire than anybody else on YouTube, than anybody else in the fantasy football streets. That way, you get the deep plays you need. We're covering people, covering the waiver wire like we're doing right now. And on top of that, we're giving you those deep dives on those trending players so you know more about those players, and we're going to help you set your lineups. This is a free resource. It's always going to be here, and you're going to need to hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss out next season. But it's time to look at the running backs and what they have to say here. We're looking at four main sites here, the sites that trend on the Google searches that everybody sees when they type in Week 14 waiver wire, fantasy football waiver wire, fantasy football this, fantasy football pickups. Those sites that are always at the top. What they're saying at running back, Blake Corum is the top man. It makes sense. 14.1 PPR fantasy points. Kyron Williams came out of the game. He came back in. Might be banged up. Might not be banged up. Something for us to pay attention to right now. And then we're looking at Blake Corum as the next man up. This is a sign to get the stash to your stud, because they're not talking about all the studs here. They're not talking about all the stashes here. I'm going to let you know right now, this is your sign to cuff up. And we've been giving you this sign for almost 2 months now that you need to be ready for the double-digit weeks. And now you got to get ready for the fantasy football playoffs. If you got Kyron Williams and you lose him, and the other guy has Blake Corum and just picks him up over you, has more fab or whatever, you're screwed. Because more than likely, you've been using Kyron, you've been needing Kyron, and now you're going to have to go up against baby Kyron. And if you had baby Kyron strapped up, you would have been good to go. Tyler Allgeier, same thing as baby Kyron. He's definitely not baby Bijan because he's a different type of back. He's going to be getting all the carries up the gut. They're going to pound him out. He's going to get all the red zone looks. And he has a lot of potential to get you double-digit scoring if Bijan is out. A lot of potential. Former 1,000-yard rusher. Team likes him. He's dependable. He is a mainstay in this offense. They have some things built around him even. He gets a lot of touches. One of the top handcuffs in the National Football League last year, this year. We're talking about him in the waiver wire every single week from week 1 to week infinity, from last year to this year, even prior. This is a guy that needs cuffed up. You got Bijan, you cuff him up with Tyler Allgeier. It's kind of common sense to throw out there in your waiver wire articles. Keaton Mitchell, baby. Keaton Mitchell. 11.1 PPR fantasy points against the Bengals. All he needs is one touch, one opportunity, and he can go blast off. That's the thing. He's so explosive, so fast. He's a shotgun running back. You got the Steelers. You got the Bengals again. Then you got the Patriots. If Derrick Henry goes down, it's him and Justice Hill. A lot of people will be flocking to these running backs. The thing is, like, you can't start him right now. You're going to start him and feel confident about him. You can't start him right now. And about this, to criticize these sites, it's fine to talk about Keaton Mitchell. I like Keaton Mitchell. He's one of my dudes. It's fine to talk about him. But in context of how you're laying it out, you got to also talk about a bunch of other running backs. Like, your cupboard's bare when it's talking about running backs, and then you bring up Keaton Mitchell, and somebody who's working double overtime right now, who's trying to set a lineup randomly or trying to make a pickup, and they stumble upon your site, and they got Keaton Mitchell here as like one of the 5 backs, when really, when you're bringing up Keaton Mitchell, there should be like 20 backs in the article, that you're doing a disservice. I think there's a lot of upside. I think you got to talk about how he's a shotgun running back with the Will Fuller effect, how he can be massively volatile with a full workload. With a full workload, I look at him as the Jameson Williams of running backs, the Will Fuller effect here, where he's going to give you a lot of weeks of like 7 to 10 points and then all of a sudden blast off. Think Isaac Garando last year. That's what you have here in Keaton Mitchell if Derrick Henry goes down. You got Isaac Garando last year where he just had those couple touches where he just went nuclear. Like, housed it, 80-yard runs, 70-yard runs, 90-yard runs. Like, give him a little bit of green, it's over. That's what you got in Keaton Mitchell. Chris Rodriguez. I don't know why he's mentioned here. He's been mentioned for a bit as a pickup. He was mentioned around week 11, week 12, and he was in a lot of start-sit questions. This is what's happening with Big Fantasy is you got people here with a full-time job. With a full-time job, this is all they got to do. This is all they got to do. And you can't connect the dots that these guys are rostered. You look at the roster rates in leagues on Yahoo or whatever you're looking at. The thing is, most of those leagues aren't active. So inactive leagues are coming to your sites to figure out who's the pickup, who's the guy. He's already picked up. People were thinking about starting him yesterday. A lot of start-sit questions with him. He's fine there, but you got to give him the context like, hey, this is more for shallow leagues. If you're looking for a running back that's getting a lot of touches, yeah, talk about Trey Sermon effect where you're getting so many touches where you should be hitting about once every 3 to 4 games. 10.10 with a touchdown. He got you 10 PPR fantasy points and scored a touchdown. Not much work in the passing game. But if you're chasing touches, yeah, you hope those touches lead to something. You hope they lead to something. Outside of that, like, you got to understand, like, this is not an upside play. This is an upside play in terms of touches where you're hitting double digits now every week and you're hoping it splashes to that 10, 11, 12 range. And for him to get to 20-plus point range, we got to score multiple touchdowns. Bam Knight. What are we doing? Why is he mentioned in so many sites? And these are the main ones. Why is he still being mentioned? Like, Trey Benson didn't fire last week in practice. He practiced, but he practiced Wednesday and not Thursday. So odds are he's not going to play again for a little bit. And if he's back, it's going to be like, hey, let's see what's going on here type of deal. He's been picked up. He's been started. He was in so many start-sit questions. So many start-sit questions. These guys don't realize that you can just think of the start-sit questions and realize, like, who's being rostered and who's not. You guys are going to just look at the roster rate. The roster rate, when all these leagues right now, like, a lot of fantasy gamers aren't active right now. You know how I know this? Because one, I played, and then two, I can tell by my numbers here on the channel. And so if that's true, then you have to reflect that here. And the main reason you can tell, like, who to pick up and who's not, one, watch all the games, keep up with the stats during the games, and then two, like, be in the streets helping people. You know a lot of people have Bam Knight, and you're looking at this. They're all locked in on Blake Corum and nobody really else. Keaton Mitchell is trending, and they're chasing points, but they're not giving you the context. Tyler Allgeier is a nice handcuff. Malik Davis was mentioned on Fantasy Life. Like, if Javonte Williams goes down, sure, another cuff. Chris Rodriguez mentioned on 3 of the 4 sites. The thing about this is he should have been rostered. Devin Neal, why are you mentioning him? He was the huge pickup last week. He was the guy last week to pick up. Bam Knight, I don't know why he's still being mentioned. Jordan Mason, like, why aren't they talking about the Vikings backs? Why aren't they talking about the Vikings backfield? Like, why did that get put on deaf's ears? All these guys, everybody here, full-timers, think about your full-time job and what you're doing. This is what they got to do. The whole time you're at your full-time job, this is what they're looking at, these names, trying to get it for you. Just trying to get it right for you. They ain't even talking about the injuries of the Vikings here. They're not talking about that. Like, you can talk about Bam Knight, but you can't talk about Jordan Mason. Like, people have been dropping him, picking him up all year long. Like, think about that contextually. And then Fantasy Life is just so slim there. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, the names. Fantasy Pros, somebody there has been watching this show. This show right here. Last week, they changed the article to 2 people writing it. Now it's 3, and they changed it, and they got rankings right in the middle. And it's the rankings that they use later in the week that format and they just add it there. And the one thing Fantasy Pros does is they just pump out multiple waiver wire articles just to try and get it all trending. And they can do that now because they've been established for so long. That's the thing about Fantasy Pros. Fantasy Pros, they're trying to change what they're doing. The last couple weeks, they've been changing it. Last week, they had to have 2 guys write the article. 2 full-time guys write the articles. I don't know how much that pays, but they had to have 2 guys write it. Now they had to have 3. They had to have 3 guys in there. But going to wide receiver, Luther Burden. Luther Burden's an easy call-out right now. 5 targets or more in each of his last 3 games. Snap share has been increasing, especially compared to like week 8 or earlier. Like he's up there at 49% or higher. So we're in that 50% range. That's an increase. That's not high enough, though. That's not high enough. But I do want to call out Packers, Browns, Packers. Are you going to start him? Or are you just going to look at him as a trap? That's the question here. Because this is a player with a lot of upside, former 5-star recruit that could go nuclear. He has the potential for that. You also got 3 trap games in a row. Green Bay on the road, the Browns, and then you got Green Bay again. Nasty defenses coming up looking at you. So are you going to be able to start him with what you got? He has the potential and upside to be a league winner, but are you going to be able to start him in the next 3 weeks with what you got? That is your question. Isaac TeSlaa. Snap share went up to 92%. Amon-Ra's banged up. We're watching the reports on that. We have Dallas. We have the Rams on the road. We got Pittsburgh. Very advantageous batch of games there, especially Dallas and Pittsburgh. I look for him as a threat downfield, deep ball dandy. Pairs well with Jameson Williams. I look for him in the red zone. I think there's opportunity here. I look for him as a gamble in the flex. Gamble in the flex as your flex play. Like it's a big gamble. It's either going to hit or miss. It's either going to hit or miss, and that's it. That's the most work he's gotten all year. Every game where he's been targeted, it's just been 1 target. He's not been running a lot of routes, not been getting a lot of snaps. 92% snap rate on Thanksgiving. There's upside here. Good size adjusted athleticism. I look for him as a dart throw in the flex that most of you are not going to start. DeVaughn Vele. Looking at the last 2 weeks here, 7 targets and 8. He got the touchdown this week. We're going to be getting a lot of work. Rashid Shaheed's gone. He's at Seattle. And now you're looking at Tyler Shuck here. Do you trust him? Do you trust the Saints? I do see him getting volume. You do have some interesting matchups coming up. Another flex gamble. Another flex gamble if you can make it. Another guy you may want to pick up just to throw in there. You're not going to trust it. Who trusts Saints? Chris Olave is barely trustable. How is Vele going to be trustable? Like, think about it in that realm. Juwan Johnson used to be trustable. Now you're looking at Shuck. You don't feel good about it. It's the same thing here with Vele. You know he's getting workload. The fact that he's getting 7 to 8 targets right now in the last 2 games, if that continues, we're going to hit another week. That's it. That's it. With that volume, you're going to hit another week. It is going to be an outlier if you get 7+ targets in each game and you don't hit. So if you're looking at this, the big change would be him not getting workload and not firing, or him getting workload and just becoming a big guy that goes off. I think he's going to be sporadic, off and on, hard to predict. You're looking at these wide receivers and only agreed on 3. Usually it's much more, and they're all over the place. Jalen Coker was just mentioned on 2 of the 4. John Mechie was mentioned on 2 of the 4. Both of them saw an increase in workload. I don't see why they didn't bring up Dontavian Wicks. He's the hot hand from Thursday. They always go after the hot hand. And you have fantasy pros now with 3 rankers, opposed to 2, opposed to 1 prior to that. And they can't bring him up. He was on waivers in a lot of leagues. And you're looking at this. A.D. Mitchell, only brought up by 2 sites, but he blew up yesterday. He had that big performance. He's been getting targeted like crazy. I don't know what's going on. Chris Godwin, interesting throw in there. Christian Watson shouldn't have been mentioned. Jaden Higgins, like in casual leagues, yeah, he's probably still out there. Probably need to call that out if you're still going to be calling out Luther Burden every week. Parker Washington's hurt, guys. Fantasy pros, you guys got 3 full-time guys. What? $80,000, $100,000, all 3 of them combined on salary, something like that. You guys can't look that up. He got banged up. Maybe he's back, maybe he's not, but we got to watch the practice reports. You got to give people some context here. Josh Downs, I mean, he's catch and release kind of, sort of, but he's also rostered a lot. Kayshon Boutte's rostered a lot. Jaden Reed's the nice call out here. DK's been rostered a lot. I like Pat Bryant a lot. I like him in deeper leagues. Khalif Raymond should have been mentioned in all of them. Should have been mentioned in a lot of them. And you're just looking at this, like, what kind of mess is this? You're looking at Fantasy Live. Like, I can't make sense of what they're ever doing on the waiver wire article. I can't make sense of that. Like, every week, it's just like you get a couple of the key names, and then after that, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I don't know what's up with that site, but we move on. And we're going to tight end. We got some Brenton Strange. He's hitting back-to-back weeks. He's getting volume. Remember, Fantasy Pros, I hope you need to add this in. Parker Washington got banged up in this game. Colts, Jets, Broncos. So you got the Colts game. After that, you got two matchups where it could be a little bit volatile. I'm going to say this about Brenton Strange, and I'll just say this like I've been saying for the last year and a half. He's running a lot of routes. He's seeing targets. He is getting opportunity. You chase that if you need that. If I'm good, if I'm in the top half of my league, top third of my league, I wouldn't look at him at all. At all. You're probably good. You do not need to mess around. You don't need another tight end on your depth chart. If I'm bottom third, you're probably not in a push for the playoffs. You got the Colts here. You're hoping for that touchdown. You're hoping for the touchdown. You're hoping he hits big. You're hoping for that. He's a gamble here in this offense. Trevor Lawrence is pushing it to him a little bit. You're hoping for that. Darren Waller, on the other hand, we're back. We're in the ramp-up period. And after this Jets week, maybe you want to stash him. One of the few tight ends you might want to stash. Also, to call this out, he should be rostered off the IR, but if you don't have an IR spot, or if he just got dropped for no reason because he's Darren Waller, he gets hurt all the time, and you got that notion, you got Steelers, you got Bengals, you got Tampa Bay, you got pass funnel Patriots if your playoffs could run that deep. You got some fire matchups there. You got two of the worst defenses in week 15, 16, Steelers and Bengals, when it comes to allowing fantasy points to tight ends. Two of the worst defenses here. He could get you to the fantasy football championship if it's week 17. You might have an 18er. You might have a 16er. I don't know because I run this channel. I catch a lot of different stuff in the comments, but I'm here to help everybody out. That's why we go so deep, and we go from the shallow to the deep, because you guys are turning and burning. But Darren Waller's got a nice little schedule here running forward, and I want to call that out. And that's it on who they agreed on. You're looking at Fantasy Pros, and you look at Sports Illustrated. Dalton Schultz has been a hot hand for a couple weeks. Colston Loveland every week, but it's kind of like known. Like, he's a big upside gamble every week, but he's getting volume. Harold Fannin, like, he's getting volume. He's, like, been solid. A.J. Barner's a touchdown gamble. Mike Gesicki was in the waiver wire content last week. Gunnar Helm has been getting a lot of work in his offense. Isaiah Likely is the hot hand right now. You're looking at that. Fantasy Life only gave you two tight ends. Like I said, it doesn't make any sense here. Like, what if they're both rostered and I'm clueless and I don't have time to go to another resource? I'm working my third job. I got 60 hours of overtime this week. My hands, boy. My hands. Look at that. I ain't got them sissy hands, boy. I work 80 hours a week. Now you're looking at this like, what kind of help is that? You just threw out two names against the wall. Darren Waller's likely rostered in a lot of these leagues. Brenton Strange was in the waiver wire content last week, could be rostered. You're looking at that. Why are you giving two names? What kind of lazy is that? What kind of lazy is that? Of course they got to be critical. Who else is going to be? All these guys getting a full-time check. You guys got 80 hours to pump this out. You guys got all the time in the world. But this is why we do this. This lets you know what the market's looking like. What your league mates are looking at when they're looking at waiver wire content, their pickups. A different way to look at the waiver wire, too. You know what's getting tossed out there. And I know the biggest complaint is people don't go deep enough. The reason why, they just look at the roster rates, who's under 50%, and they list the ones they like. But if you're top of that 50% in leagues that are actually got movement going on, those guys are rostered. Those guys are picked up, man. They're picked up. Why? Because they're that low, because not all the leagues are active. The leagues that are active, they're the ones searching for content. And if they're searching for the content, they're looking for more than that. Also, those are the gimmies. So why give them the gimmies? Just talk about it real quick and move on. That's what we do here. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about 20-plus running backs, 20-plus wide receivers. I just talk about the whole waiver wire. It's a buffet. You just take what you want. You just take what you want. Maybe you need that shallow advice. Maybe you need that deep advice. I just give it all to you. That's why you need to click that subscribe button. We're going deeper than them. Plus, I dropped this content yesterday while games were playing. I just beat them. More accurate, deeper, more sound. We hit it like that. They ain't better than us. Click that button. Stop missing out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.